Hey, I don't know exactly how to start this. This stuff going on now is it's pretty crazy. Um, well, I guess I'll start with Mr. Floyd. Stuff that happened with him, freaking heinous. I mean, it's obvious that wrong was done. Exactly how much wrong, that's what nobody really knows. You know, enough to get him third-degree murder? Yeah, absolutely. That much is obvious. Could it have been more? Possibly. Um, I don't know if any of this is true, but little things that you hear around the news and other stuff is that he worked with the man that was killed. You know, everyone's pissed off saying that it was race, it was race, it was race. He worked with the man. Race could have had something to do with it, but there's a chance it didn't. That it was a personal thing between them, personality related. You know, something happened at work, and this cop decided he was going to make him pay for whatever it was personally, you know, and with his life. If any of that could be proven, that's first degree murder. That means that cop spends the rest of his life in jail, if not put to death himself. And any of these other cops that were complacent in that, possibly as well. The problem is people jump to race conclusions. There's a lot of evidence that says it probably wasn't race. The cop was married to a non-white. Cop worked with other colored and race cops. He also had a second job where he worked with Mr. Floyd and didn't have any issues there with co-workers. But then the cop did have complaints on his performance as a cop with excessive force and other abuses of power reported by whites, blacks, everybody, which leads me to believe that he was a bad cop, obviously, but not necessarily racist. But everyone's claiming race is the issue. And it bothers me because to me it looks like, I wouldn't necessarily say corruption as the whole, but lack of action on corruption in police officers is the issue. You know, this cop had numerous reports, of him acting inappropriately as a police officer, but nothing was done about it, which led to Mr. Floyd dying. And regardless of how that happened, it should have never gotten there because they should have acted on that. Now, the reason I say this is because if everyone's focusing on racism within the police force or in the government or whatever, when that's not the cause of Mr. Floyd dying, and the cause is actually lack of action on behalf of the higher ups in the police force, that's focusing on the wrong problem to fix what happened to Mr. Floyd. It's like getting a splinter in your finger and deciding to amputate your foot. It's not going to fix that problem. It's not going to prevent this from happening again. Now, in saying all that, what's worse is the rioting. You know, I understand the protests, and I have no problem with protests. You know, it's part of our First Amendment. I don't care if I agree with the reason someone's protesting or not. I will always defend their right to protest. The problem is rioting and looting is not protest. Rioting and looting is taking advantage of the protest and then later, you know, because of the sheer numbers, taking advantage of people that had absolutely nothing to do with what happened and what was the reason for the protest in the first place. For instance, you're saying that you're out here protesting and rioting and looting because of the injustice and the lost life of a black man, but you're willing to completely destroy the livelihood and well-being of a black business owner who had absolutely nothing to do with any of this, who's completely innocent. For what? You know, when people's lives get destroyed, their life is lost in many cases. Many people end up committing suicide because they don't know how they're going to get the next meal on the table. They're in complete despair. You know, it's devastating. And it's happening all over the country. It's not just, and I'm not trying to minimize Mr. Floyd's life, because it's tragic and it shouldn't have happened. But destroying hundreds or thousands of more lives, it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't compute. It doesn't add up. And what's fucking worse is 48 hours after Mr. Floyd died, they torched the police station that housed any evidence they had against Mr. Floyd and the other officers, possibly setting them free. I mean, come on. You want these guys to go down. You want these guys to go to prison. But you're going to destroy every bit of evidence they have against them? How does that make any sense? Seriously. I mean, Donald Trump sent a task force down there to investigate out of their jurisdiction, completely out of bias, towards, for these cops, wanting to make sure that it was as clean and as accurate as possible, and these guys get charged with as much as they could possibly get charged, but all their evidence was destroyed. They can't use anything that was in that police station. I mean, seriously? This makes sense? I don't get it. I don't understand. I understand being pissed off. I mean, I'm pissed off about it. I mean, for numerous reasons. Number one, a man died who did not need to, and it doesn't matter what got the cops there in the first place. That part doesn't matter. They had him in their custody. His life and his safety was their responsibility. It was their job. And they fucked up. And they let one cop take that man's life. That is wrong. And they should pay dearly for it. But they should pay dearly. Not these small business owners around the nation. Black, white, Asian, whatever. None of them had anything to do with that. And they were probably just as pissed off as you are. But now you're making people think you're cruel criminals and hoodlums and thugs because of your own actions. Because of these riots. And I'm not saying don't be pissed off and don't demonstrate, don't protest. Because, I mean, the protest, like I said, I am all for. I support it. I probably would be there if there was one in my area. If I knew it was just a protest. If I knew it was peaceful speaking, shouting, whatever. But the fact that it became violent and started destroying the lives of innocent people who had absolutely nothing to do with that, that's wrong. In so many ways. It's wrong. And it's making these people worse than the cops. It's just wrong. I mean, come on. You're going to destroy people who... I mean, there's no possible justification for destroying a, black woman's business who's worked, for some of them, 40 years to be able to save up enough money to open up their own business, to work for themselves, finally get out from under the heel of someone else, and now you're going to take that from her? For what? Because you're pissed off? I mean, you could say the same thing about some of these dumbass cops who heard people, oh, well, they were pissed off. No, it doesn't work. It doesn't work for the cops, the piece of shits that let their anger get control of them, to hurt somebody who does not deserve to be hurt. It doesn't work for these fucking rioters to destroy people and hurt people who don't deserve to be hurt because you're pissed off. Fucking grow the fuck up and control yourself. Take personal responsibility for yourself. Such bullshit. Such bullshit.